Well, the first month of 2024 saw massive job growth that really outperformed economists' expectations.
That's right. The latest jobs report shows the labor market remains unusually robust in spite of high interest rates and inflation. The Labor Department said today U.S. employers added a total of 353,000 jobs last month. The unemployment rate held steady at 3.7%. Earlier on the stream, Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su said this jobs report, quote, crushed expectations.
It demonstrates that the economy continues to grow. The labor force participation rate remains high, meaning that people are in the job market, and when they're looking for jobs, there are jobs out there for them. We've now had the unemployment rate less than 4% for 2 whole years running. And the other thing, when you ask about, what do I hope that American people will note, it's that we're seeing that wage growth was also higher than expected.
Daniel Zhao is here with us in Studio 57. He's the lead economist at Glassdoor. Daniel, welcome. So these numbers are really fascinating because you had several companies that announced mass layoffs last month. How surprising is this latest jobs report?
Well, I think today's jobs report is a huge surprise in actually 2 different ways. One, of course, is that the headline jobs growth figure was much higher than expectations. But beyond that, we actually got a rear view mirror look at 2023, which, as we know, was much more resilient than expected, but it actually even looks better than what we had originally thought, with 3.1 million jobs added over the course of 2023. That's a little bit slower than the previous COVID recovery years, but actually was the highest rate of jobs growth between 2000 and 2019. So much stronger than expected, especially given what we've been hearing in the headlines about layoffs.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about the Fed, because obviously this report coming just 2 days after the Fed met and decided to leave interest rates unchanged. Steady job growth, usually good in an economy, but in the case where it is really exceeding expectations, it means it's a heated economy that is anti the Fed's desire to bring down inflation. So do you think that this is actually going to lead to a delay in the Fed cutting those interest rates?
Well, I think especially the wage growth figure coming in hotter than expected means that the Fed is likely to stand pat on their decision not to cut rates in March, and in fact might even push back that time frame a little bit further. That being said, I think the jobs growth figure is probably in close to a sustainable range. We got over 300,000 jobs added in December and January, but that's probably not what the true underlying growth rate. There's always a little bit of volatility with some of the seasonality at the start of the year, or at the turn of the year, really. So I do think that jobs growth figure we're getting is consistent with a job market that can be in balance, as the Fed likes to say.
In balance. All right. So then should we be concerned, though, that you have more and more people working and inflation could potentially be driven higher?
I don't think we're yet at that point. I think the wage growth figure is probably a little bit hotter than where the Fed wants it to be. But at the same time, we are getting other data that might suggest that wage growth is going to decelerate a little bit more. So the quits rate, for example, is coming down as employees are just a little bit less confident about their prospects on the open job market. We also see other wage data, which is a little bit softer. So I think that we are likely to see wage growth decelerate. And at the same time, as long as inflation keeps coming down, that gets us closer to that soft landing.
All right, Daniel Zhao, thank you for being here.
Thanks.